Hi there, and welcome back to this second part of the PriceYourOwnBets.com tennis model user guide for the model we've just gone down with recently. Okay, in the first part we went through all the variables fairly quickly. Well, in the second part I'm just going to go in a little more depth and just to try and get a feel for some of the bits and pieces with regard to this. So the first thing I'm going to look at is this starting hold serve percent. Now, with regard to match price, it really doesn't matter too much how far apart you make these. So, for example, if I put in 70 versus 65, look, I get a 61-39 match. Or I could make them both better, so I go 75 v 70. I get 62-38, so it's fairly close. And even if I go to, 80-75, it's still fairly close, 62-38. So in terms of the match, the difference between these is obviously the most important thing. So the 5% here is keeping the price fairly static. But of course this is having a big difference on the correct score betting for the set, basically before the set starts, and of course in running as well. So to just get feel for this, I'm going to go to some low percentages here. So I'm going to go to 55%, which is, I think that's about the average hold percent in women's tennis. Obviously some will be bigger and some will be smaller, and obviously they won't always be the same. But just to have a look, if you look at this 55 here, there's not too much difference between scorelines like 6-4. So here I've got player A to serve second, and they're 13 and 11 for the 6-4. If I go back the other way, that flips over. So why is 6-4 more likely for the player serving second? Well, it's basically one break of serve early on in the set and then holding out serve. Well, of course, at 55% there's going to be several breaks of serve, so the serve doesn't make so much difference. So that's why these are quite close. If I go to the other extreme, I'll go to two really good strong servers that are at 85%. Then what we see now, look, is that the 6-4 is very unlikely for the player that serves first, because he has to get to 5-4 ahead and then break serve to get to that. So he's 6-1 to break serve, roughly at 85%. So he needs to get to 5-4 and then break. Whereas it's highly likely for the other player, simply because if he has one break of serve, gets to 5-4 ahead, then he serves out the set. So just one to be aware of is that these figures here, what you set the starting hold serve percent to, will have an impact on this correct score, more so than the match stuff in a pre-match state. But of course then we can also look in the set as well. So let's go to, say, the middle of a set. So let's go to 3-3 to start with. So the set is still 50-50 because we've got this symmetric. And let's go back to the low serve success. So I'll go back to 55%, and we'll look at the value of being a game ahead here. So A is set to serve first here. So if I put them a game up on serve, they go to 67% to win this set. So it's quite high, but I guess it's because it's late on in the set. That one game advantage, is quite useful, and obviously because these players, every game is quite close. Well, if I took these much higher, back to the 85, well, what we'll see now is basically that game wasn't worth that much. Look, that player's only 57% to win that set. Simply because 5 out of 6 times the other person's going to get back to 4-all, and then it's back to 50-50. So I can flip this by just putting player. Well, actually, I'll leave player A serving first, but let's make it 3-4 now. So we'll give player B a break of serve. So now look, they're 87%. They're a huge favourite for that set because of that break of serve. Again, if we go back to the 55, it's gone from 87 to 71. So there's a big difference there. So that it's still good to have the game's advantage, but it's far less important, if you like, when there's going to be lots of breaks of serve. You can also see this in the price of a tie break. So, for example, the 55s here, if I go back to 0-0, the tie break's quite unlikely, 6% and 6%, so 12%, simply because there's a good chance that every game's 50-50, and so either player can win this set, and they can win it reasonably quickly as well. Again, if we go back to the extremes, so the two big servers or whatever, 85%, then the tiebreak now is up at nearly 30%. So just one to be aware of. You can add these two. I can probably add this market. What's the chance of a tie break? But these two numbers added together, the 28%, is another market that sometimes you can bet on, and it's something that if you're more accurate with these percentages here, that you can hopefully get an edge with. So I'm now going to look just quickly at a tie break just to see what goes on in a tie break. So here I've set it to 6 all, so we have a first set tie break. So obviously this set is still 50-50 because they're the same. And let's go back to some fairly low hold percentage. Recall that this serve percent here is to win a game, so in actual fact they're less likely than that to win a game, because if you were even 52-53% to win the points, because a game is made up of a selection of points, it means that you're going to be this percent. So it probably equates to about 52% here for the actual whole percent of an individual point, but the model has back engineered that for in the tie break to get to the right percentage to put into the calculations for the tie break. So let's just put a player 1 point ahead. So that was a point that player 1 served, and it's quite surprising that at that point really does have quite a big impact here. Even being 1-0 up, you go to 60-40 in this game where both players are quite similar. That won't be so big, I guess, if we go again to the two big servers. So the 85%, it probably only equates to about 62 or 3% to actually win the point. I'll do some tables in the analysis of the relationship between the points and the games to give people a feel for that. But even now that one has made them 58% to win this set here. So if I go the other way and give it to the other player as a point against the serve, now with these big servers they've gone up to 66%. So just something to be aware of is that small leads can have quite a big impact actually. So you put somebody 2-0 up, they're up to 3s on now, they're up at 74%. So just one to keep your eye on really. You can go late on in these as well. If you go to 6-4, you can nearly work this out in your head at this point if you know the point percent, because this person has to win 2 points in a row, one serving, one not, to get back to 50-50. So that's about say 70% for 1 point, 30% for the other, about 20 odd percent to 50-50, and you've got your 11% there. So you can also see your correct scores here in that tie break. So just a few other points really about the game, and it's very important to keep on top of this holding serve percent for the in-running more so than for the pre-match. So okay, I'll leave it there for this second part, and thanks very much, and I hope you have some fun with the model. Thanks very much for listening.